Hey guys, and welcome to another First Impressions video, the video game series in which we look at a recently released game and I give you my first thoughts and impressions on it. Today we're looking at Dinosaur Fossil Hunter, which is by Pyramid Games and published by Playway. So you got a pretty good idea before you even get in what you can expect. It's a very detailed game. It's a very game that's going to require a lot of patience from you and be a complete time sink, and if you're into that, you're going to really love it. I do, however, have more than a couple of issues with the game, which we'll get into when I get into the gameplay. As always, we'll look at the settings first, and then we'll jump into the actual game, and I will show you the fossil hunting and then the fossil cleaning stages of the gameplay, and I'll give you my first thoughts and impressions. So, without any further ado, let's jump straight into those settings and see what we think, shall we? Alright, the very first thing that I want to comment on is the mouse movement in the menu. It is horrible, and I don't know why they've opted for this, and I wish that you could turn it off, but you can't. I've looked in the options, and unfortunately what happens is when you move the mouse, it moves the camera around, and it's really, really disorienting and very nauseating as well. I'm really not a fan. But outside of that, the options that this game actually has are pretty damn good. We've got your field view, you've got your language, you've got the replace handwritten font with regular font in case you have issues reading smaller or calligraphied font, if you will. You can set the interaction of the mouse to hold, which is going to be incredibly useful for you if you are doing a lot of digging or pickaxing, etc. We have invert player access and invert car access. Honestly, the car in this game is awful. It works as you would expect it to work with a mouse and keyboard, but your camera movement's all weird and wrong, and I don't like it. Also worth noting that the controls aren't very good at auto detect. What I mean by that is the tooltips don't change. If you have a controller plugged in, it will always show you the controller controls, which if you're a new player doesn't really help you very much, so I ended up unplugging the controller entirely. We've also got video options here. We've got your brightness, your bloom, your ambient occlusion, your cinematic or chromatic aberration. You've got your AO preset, your vinaigrette, and your HDR, and then you've also got all of your shadows, anti-aliasing, texture quality, all your normal stuff. Like the options in this game are actually pretty well thought out, and there is a decent amount of them. This game is incredibly pretty to look at as well. The graphics are surprisingly really good. Your audio settings, I have turned the general or master setting down to about halfway. The music seems pretty good. It fits the theme pretty well, and it doesn't blow your ears off entirely. And then your controls. Like I say, if you do have your controller plugged in, all the tooltips on screen will default to that. What is nice is that they've got a workshop option. Now this is for your Steam workshop. This is where you're going to get all of your mods later on down the line for different dinosaurs and different cars and stuff like that. And I like it when games like this include that from the get-go. It shows that they're very welcoming to the mod community, and that is a good thing. And they're your options. Not bad. This menu thing needs to go away. Just straight up go away. Also, you can't actually exit the options once you're in them. The only way to exit them is to click on either new game or save and load, etc. and go from there. You can't actually exit out of them, which is a bit weird. But anyway, we're going to jump straight into the gameplay, and we will see what the game plays like in Fossil Hunter mode. Alright then, we are in the Fossil Hunter stage. Now in this stage you have a number of tasks that you are required to do, and it will give you a certain amount of crates that you will have to fill with bones with fossils in order to fill the objective. As you can see, I've already done it, but I'm going to show you how the gameplay kind of works, because there are still rocks that I can dig up and find and show you how each thing works. Now, one of the biggest problems I've got with this mode so far is the movement, whether it's in the car or whether it's walking around. The first is you're very slow. Even with the sprint button, and I use sprint lightly, you don't move very fast, and that can be kind of frustrating. The other issue I've got is that you're not very mobile. For somebody who is doing this as a living, you struggle out of the smallest dips. But anyway, The idea is you take this little gizmo, the GPR here, and you walk around. When you come across a rock that can possibly house some bones, it will flash up a different color. Once you've found those rocks that flash up a different color, you will then have to dig them out. If you go out of the area of rock that you were able to dig, it will just come up and yell at you repeatedly saying that you're in the wrong area. If you go in any water, it will just say that you can't use it here and then sort of disappear, so you've got to do it again. So, as you can see, there are some rocks down here, look, that we may possibly get some fossils out, and they shine up really bright on the GPR. You've then got two options. You can either put down a flag and carry on looking, or you can just straight up get your shovel and dig where you've just found. Now, honestly, just digging where you've just found is probably going to be the best option. It's going to be a lot quicker than trying to find and come back to the flag later on. As you can see, one of the big issues I've got with this is the way that the rocks and stuff just kind of crumble all over the place, blocking your view, blocking your way out. Again, movement is a massive, massive issue with this game, and it's not made any easier by the main process of the fossil hunting mode. Once you've dug it and it's become loose, you've then got two options. You can either clean it down or you can scan it. Honestly, you want to scan it first. You get your scanner out here and you'll scan it if you're able to, if it is a rock that can indeed be done, which apparently this one cannot, or I've already scanned it. Once you've scanned it, it will come up in the top right hand corner whether the rock is empty or whether it has some fossils in it. If it's got some fossils in it, you're going to want to clean it down. Once you clean it, it will come to a much smaller rock size, and if there is any dinosaurs or anything in it, you then get your plaster out and you will be able to plaster it. Now, luckily, the game doesn't seem to let you do that unless there is fossils in the rock that you have discovered. It won't physically let you do that, and it will come up in the bottom left-hand corner that it is just an empty stone. Once you've plastered it, you will then take it to a crate, and once you've got it in a crate, you will then drive it to the transport area or your tent, your main tent. And this gives me a good opportunity to show you just how bad the driving is in this game. Now, graphically, everything looks rather pretty. The textures aren't terrible. The water looks very good. Even the car looks decent. You know, it looks like a decent Jeep. It looks like it would get you from A to B. However, the biggest problem I've got with the car is the camera. It's not inverted, so you move it left to right and it will move left to right. But if you try and look up, it doesn't really look where you want it to look. It doesn't look where you would expect it to go. And that's a problem when you're trying to drive around. Like, if you try and look above it, it takes you very, very close. The suspension's all over the place. It's not a great driving experience. Now, luckily, you're not going to be driving for too long, too often. It's very short A to B distances to get from your tent to the excavation site. However, it is worth noting that honestly, in most of these simulation type games, the driving experience is never good. The handling is very wishy-washy. You know, driving is not the first and foremost part of these games. But yeah, that's the fossil hunting mode. I'm not a huge fan for many reasons. Namely, the movement is awful and really ruins the experience, and the tutorial's not very good either. The way the tutorial works is basically you get given a number of videos and it's your choice whether you watch them or not, instead of maybe just having like a forced tutorial or an option for a tutorial in the very start of the game to give players an idea of what they're doing. You can visit the tutorials at any time using F2, and the way that they've done the tutorial is basically that it is a number of short videos explaining what each of the thing is that you've got to do. I'm not really a fan of the way they've done it. I feel like it's a very lazy way of doing it, if I'm honest. And with a game like this, with how detailed it is, it would be nice if they were a little bit more complete, I think is the word. Just a little bit more attentive to the player. But this is the fossil hunting mode. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to the museum mode where you actually clean the bones and stuff, and we'll discuss that and give my first impressions there as well. Alright then, the museum section of the game. This arguably is the strongest part of this entire game. It is also the most time consuming part of the game. The idea is that you take your fossils that you found and you have to, you know, cut them down, see what's going on with them, and then assemble them as you see fit. The problem that I've got with this is that everything seems like it wants to be as precise as possible without the thing actually being all that precise. Your cursor is wayward at best. It's not very accurate. It can take a long time. And as you can see here, I'm having to cut the plaster off and it's taking way longer than I'd expect it to. And then it just automatically changes to the next tool, which is a bit weird and a bit jaunting and can take you a bit for a ride. Then you've got your manual clean, and this is where things really do start to take a turn of how long is it going to take. Each tool is very tiny and takes a lot of time to sort of sort through everything. It is, however, very cool. Like, it's something that takes a long time, but you don't mind that it takes a long time because it's quite therapeutic and very enjoyable. And if you're into dinosaurs and paleontology and, you know, finicky stuff like this, that's kind of cool. I just wish that the cursor was a little bit more accurate, a little bit more generous with its hitboxes and its completion rates. Some of these tools, like this brush in particular, it doesn't really do a very good job of showing you what you have and haven't done. However, if you are playing this game, I have found a bit of a life hack with it, if you will. If you sit and hold Q, it rotates everything. And if you sit and hold your button down on your mouse whilst you brush the different areas whilst rotating, you'll see that you actually cover more of it a lot quicker. Honestly, though, you shouldn't really need to do this in order to you know, do what the game wants you to do. It feels a bit long-winded, and even then, with this little bit of a life hack, it still takes a long time. Also, the brush animation is a bit weird. It doesn't seem to be very coherent. It sort of stops sometimes, doesn't others, even though it's still technically filling up the bar. And it does this with all of the bits. And the other problem with this is that there's like 6 or 7 different procedures, some of which get very, very finicky and very, very pedantic with what it is that you have to do. And that's a problem, because whilst detail in a game like this is important, you want it to be detailed but still fun, and you don't want it to really overstay its welcome, which this unfortunately kind of does. Remember, this is just the first stage in about 10. Once you've done this, you basically then just take the dinosaur pieces and you assemble them into a foot or a hip or whatever part it is that you've got from your fossils, and then you assemble them on the stand ready to go into the actual museum itself. And that bit, I can admit, is pretty cool. Everything highlights for you when you go to put the piece onto the dinosaur, and it's relatively easy and the simplest part of the entire process. Overall then, this game isn't bad. It feels like it's trying too hard in some instances, and I feel that they really need to work on hitboxes and completion bars for this bit especially, just to make the game not really lose its pace and not make the player feel like they're losing patience with trying to get this process done to see the end result. And there you have it. That is Dinosaur Fossil Hunter. It came out a couple of days ago on Steam. Let me know in those comments down below what you think, and I shall see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.